What, 18?
18.
14?
18.
The lightning bolt doesn't. No.
Oh, no, you're right.
Just 14.
14.
Yeah, we're talking low to the ground. We're talking that Alan Comer, like just keep it real low, drop it low. No, like Turbo Xerox? Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I know.
He's up against Alexander Lapping, which I believe we actually watched a little bit yesterday. He's playing Mono Blue Wizards.
Oh, and I misspoke earlier. Jonathan's playing Rug. I said Bug, and I know I did, but...
Yeah, it's Rug. The Bug is just because it had Dismember and Surgical Extraction. Yeah, but he doesn't have any black mana. Come on, this is Dismember. You don't play Dismember in decks with black mana.
Yeah, now Dismember is something that has kind of been adopted by the Rug decks for a few different reasons. The first reason is because it effectively deals with Tarmogoyf for 1 mana, and Tarmogoyf is very good against the Rug decks, whereas it's not very good against the blue-white decks. So as a Rug deck, having Dismember is a pretty nice thing, especially when you're Snapcastering. The other reason Dismember has kind of been adopted in these decks is because the counterbalance versions need to play 3s in order to counter their opponent's 3-drops, and there aren't really many good 3 casting cost spells for these decks, and Dismember is an awesome 1 casting cost spell that reveals the 3 for your counterbalances.
So Jonathan leads with Volcanic Island and Delver's Secrets, and Alexander's leading with an island and a vial. And you know what? This is usually the signal that the person's playing Merfolk. But a lot of people, including like one of Merfolk's greatest champions, Alex Bertoncini, has said that Merfolk it doesn't work anymore. It's the times have changed, and the printing of Snapcaster Mage and Lord of the Unreal may have given the Wizard deck the edge it needs. Now, the Lord of the Unreal is a wizard itself, but the really interesting thing is that he's using 4 mirror entities, which could potentially change all of his creatures into illusions and make them untargetable. Even with 0 mana, if you just curve out Lord of the Unreal into mirror entity, because since they're all
you're just like, pay 0, my guys are untargetable.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty sweet, right? And then that's
a really nifty interaction.
Sage, Epitire, and Curse Catcher provide a little bit more 1-drop action than a lot of the Merfolk decks play. And Patron Wizard, of course, has always been the Merfolk Lord. He's the one that just locks people out of the game where they just can't even cast spells anymore.
And Patron Wizard is kind of an interesting lock because when you first read Patron Wizard when you've been playing Magic for a while, you're like, wow, this is awesome, I can stone lock somebody. But then you're not attacking them because they're locked. And then you end up like sitting there. And they cast a Molten Disaster, and it's sad times.
Very, very, very sad. So the Insectoid flips immediately, as he is wont to do, and Jonathan is beginning the beat down. It looks like he had an early Stifle, presumably on the Vial, getting a Vial counter, just to try to slow Alexander down. At this point, Jonathan still doesn't have any information. I mean, maybe he knows his opponent personally, but he doesn't have any information to suspect this isn't Merfolk. So I don't think Wizards is mainstream yet. But because of the addition of Snapcaster Mage, he's using a little bit different of a mix of spells than the old Merfolk decks did. He's actually using Brainstorm with the fetch lands. Obviously with Snapcaster Mage it's incredible, but also he's splashing white for Swords to Plowshares. And then using Spell Snare instead of Daze. Obviously Spell Snare works way, way, way better with Snapcaster Mage than Daze, since you can't alternate cost off it. So we have 3 different vials in play. Well, 2 different vials and a third one that is quite a bit different. This is going to make Jonathan's counter magic all but dead. Although it can still be used to fight over like a plow or something.
Yeah.
But the wizard deck looks like it could be potentially very, very, very dangerous with so many vials. I mean, it looks like it's built very similar to a Merfolk deck, and Vial is always the best card in those decks.
Pretty much so. That's always been one of my biggest issues in Merfolk, is that it's extremely hard to justify playing that deck. Because if you don't have a Vial in your opening hand, your deck is extremely underpowered for the format.
Just a straight up sliver deck.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, I meant a sliver deck, like they crusade each other. Yeah. So the Insectoid beats continue. Jonathan fetching up his missing color. Are we going to see a Tarmogoyf? Are we going to... Is this just going to be more manipulation, trying to find some interaction? The tough thing is, the number of cards in Jonathan's deck that are relevant in this position is actually somewhat low. I mean, at this point, Mana Denial and Permission, neither one mean anything. So he just has, He has a few removal spells and a few creatures, and then some library manipulation to try to set it up.
And Alex is choked. He hasn't found any of his white mana.
Well, no, he's intentionally not searched it up. He fetched and fetched Basic Island.
I thought he fetched Basic Island because his opponent was a Wasteland deck.
But he doesn't need the, he's not choked on the, he would just go fetch the Tundra if he needed white. He doesn't, yeah, I don't think he needs it yet. Like, he's got 3 vials. The only white cards in his deck are, that at this point, now that he can cast his Mirror Entity for free, are just 4 plows. And obviously he doesn't have a plow, or he didn't have a plow yet, because it'd be easy enough to just go get the Tundra and plow the Insectoid. Yeah, because I mean, at this point, like, he's going to drop his entire army for free. Now, what does Jonathan have in his sideboard to try to fight a Vile Merfolk strategy? Or Wizard, I guess. But it looks like Merfolk to him so far.
It looks like he's got 1 Red Elemental Blast.
2 Pyroblasts. And he doesn't have anything like Pithing Needle or Grudge or anything like that. I mean, Grudge wouldn't even be that good, I guess, but...
Maybe you want Spell Pierce in the play? I don't think so, though.
It's interesting how much less land the Wizard deck has than the Merfolk deck. And since you don't have to play Mutavault, he's not even playing Wasteland either, actually. So he's actually only got 17 land in his deck, giving him just a higher threat density, I guess. It's kind of interesting, too, the Sage of Epitire fetch land interaction.
It's a pretty cool interaction. It's
Now, that guy was actually designed to be kind of a skill testing card. I mean, his name is even an anagram of Pyrite, because he's supposed to be Fool's Gold. Seriously.
I did not know that.
So, we're looking at a battle over potentially a second Delver of Secrets. Alexander has already dropped a 7, and one of the weaknesses of his deck, he doesn't have any flyers. With no flying creatures, Delver of Secrets is just absolutely exceptional against him game 1. He has literally just 4 plows. Out of his sideboard, not really a lot else. His sideboard has 0 cards that interact with Delver of Secrets at all. So,
I mean, he has Swords to Plowshares.
yeah, but his sideboard thing, like his main deck, he has just Swords to Plowshares. It's mostly just race. It's a hard race.
He's Submerge.
That's true, because his opponent is going to have Tropical Islands.
Yeah.
For Tarmogoyf, presumably. Lord of the Unreal coming down. Always interesting to see Lord of the Unreal in a deck that has no illusions. It's just a wizard. Puts the beats down. I mean, I guess Mirror Entity technically is obviously a wizard, but... I mean, is obviously an illusion. But, I mean, that's sort of a Mistform Ultimus type of thing. You can't really just... Mirror Entity drops down. Now, it's interesting. By fetching a Basic Island, he ensured that he has as much money as possible so that he could pull off the Lord of the Unreal Mirror Entity combo. He's actually going to win this race.
Yes, he is.
All he has is a Curse Catcher, a Lord of the Unreal, and a Mirror Entity, and he's threatening...
Lethal next turn.
I mean, how much did he just deal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He just dealt 6, right? Yeah, because he turned him into 2/2s, and the Lord made him 3/3s.
Yes.
Now they're going to fight over the Bolt. And Jonathan wins by a turn.
Why did he toss the Curse Catcher in the graveyard?
It didn't matter. It was over. He's dead.
Okay.
He just did it to hope that his opponent didn't pay.
Okay.
Because he was at 3, and he got bolted.
Yeah.
He certainly didn't have his Curse Catcher bolted.
Yeah, I was going to...
The Lord of the Unreal?
Yeah. Lord of the Unreal is just...
Unreal.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool interaction with Mirror Entity.
Very cool. Sadly, he was just just a turn behind, but that's one of the advantages of Lightning Bolt. It doesn't kill all the biggest creatures. However, when your deck is just dealing 3 at a time, sometimes you just nug them. Plus, in the world where people are all playing Jace the Mind Sculptor, it is another answer.
Yeah, when people just straight brainstorm and forcing people to Fate Seal to dodge Lightning Bolts makes it significantly less painful when you have to legend roll Jaces.
Absolutely. Now, both of these decks seem to be kind of hinting at a return to the super low mana tempo-based decks. 17 land, 18 land, 4 of which are wastelands. I mean, that's not a lot of land. The Jace the Mind Sculptor decks usually have more like 23, 24, maybe more 25, 26. It depends on if the pilot plays other formats or not.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to...
Mystic is mana hungry, so is Snapcaster, and so is Jace.
Are we going to see less Jace now, or do you think this is just this pairing?
I think this is just this pairing. A card I think we will see more of, however, is Elspeth Knight Around. I think Elspeth solves the new format, or the two best decks in the format, very well. It defeats them very handily. Blue-White has a lot of trouble with Elspeth. Like, even a resolved Jace isn't strong enough to beat it, and rug decks also just have like nightmares about Elspeth. She also, like, her loyalty gets so huge right away.
What do you think of Vindicate as a card for a blue-white deck?
Huh.
Like, if you have a soft black splash, I mean, obviously, if you're relying on
instant, I'd be much more excited about it.
Sure. If you're playing Force of Will and Dark Confidant and Stoneforge Mystic, it's like you need double blue early, but you also need black and you need white. And your mana's a little bit worse if you want to play Wastelands and Colorless Lands and all that. But if you don't play a million colorless lands, you can actually pick up the third color, as we discussed with Pyroblast. Yep. You can pick up the third color very, very cheap.
Or you can just play more lands.
You can definitely just play more land. Plus, especially, you know what card I think is really underrated in Legacy?
Island?
Creeping Tar Pit.
Creeping Tar Pit? That is incredible. It's such a strong spell. Not spell.
It is a spell. No, you can put it as your spell, and it makes mana. It's like natural ordering.
Everything I want.
It's like a Green Sun Zenith for a Dryad Arbor sometimes.
It kills Chase.
I mean, Creeping Tar Pit is a nice card, and it's a nice way to make your land to have more action. Because so many of these Legacy decks that are only playing 17 land, it's like their deck is, has just 15, 20% more spells than other people. And so if you can play some Creeping Tar Pits, that's a really powerful spell, but it actually helps you also cast your cards like Jace. And yeah, obviously you want to be able to cast your Spell Snare and so on, but if you just don't, like, if you build enough blue mana, if you play as much blue mana as you normally would be able to, it's not actually decreasing your chances of spell snaring, it's increasing your chances because it only gives you more options. It's not taking away the chances of having the turn 2 spell snare.
Having 3 Creeping Tar Pit, as long as you have like 15 untapped blue sources, I'm completely fine with. But Tar Pit's really good.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you need to play 4. I mean, you could play 1, 2, 3. I mean, you could play any number. Just it's a way to have additional threats, because like a lot of these decks, like this deck, 4 Delver of Secrets and 4 Snapcasters and 4 Tarmogoyfs. Snapcaster isn't the biggest threat, but I could picture, like, for instance, a bug deck with Tarmogoyf and Dark Confidant and Snapcaster Mage. Maybe the added pressure of a Creeping Tar Pit would be a nice extra element for them, The old argument against it used to be the fact that it doesn't interact with Daze. It doesn't really matter anymore because now nobody plays Daze.
Yeah, Daze is...
Because of Snapcaster Mage.
Kind of old school. Jonathan still has Daze.
Yeah, he's playing... Yeah, he's definitely playing...
He's got a few copies.
Yeah, he's got the land destruction version. But man, I wouldn't want to play Daze as much as I want to play, like, Jace. I want to play Jace.
I agree.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't want to play Jace? Come on.
I also want to play Elspeth.
So it looks like Alexander is fetching. Is this fetching or is this small game?
Right,
it is fetching.
He fetched up an island, and he passes the turn.
Doing it immediately so as to play around Stifle, of course. No, he's not passing the turn.
Oh, okay.
That's just the old act like you're passing the turn, but really you're just, calling for a Japanese judge. You know what I mean. Alright, Sage of Epitire requires a little bit of a reading. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
An awful lot of people would have to read that one.
This is it's
a card
12th pick in Time Spiral Limited.
If that. Often
unplayable.
Not seen in the big leagues that often, but it's always kind of heartbreaking too when you play the fetch land in turn 1 and you Sage if you don't get a land, because it's locked in. There's no shuffle option.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting to me the playing the fetch land turn 1 though. Like if he had the Sage, if he's got 2 land in his hand, if he's got like a dual land, why not play the dual land first? Even though it can get wasted, like if he wastes you, you're not actually any further behind. I mean,
yeah, whatever.
But I don't know. Maybe he just definitely wants to have a 2-drop. It's not clear.
It depends what his plan is.
Is this going to be a Delver? I mean, that's pretty much what John's looking to do, right? Like,
yeah, I mean that's ideal for him.
like, is there anything else he'd play immediately, or ponder? I guess it is the Delver. Yeah, that's his opening line. Lapping is very fortunate that Jonathan doesn't play Grim Lavamancer.
Yes, he is.
That's a card that goes in and out of these rug decks. You know, it's more often in a little bit some of the bigger ones that have a little bit more of a controlling angle instead of a tempo-based angle. Mm-hmm. But it does work very, very well with the rug sort of deck.
Grim Lavamancer is a card that you know, it's very strong against the blue-white decks again.
Absolutely. Can just completely lock them out of their ability to use any kind of equipment. And the Delver Secrets here, are we seeing it not flip for once? It does seem that the Delver is a slightly, you know, a kind of a favorite versus the Sage. Delver isn't a wizard, right?
Before it flips,
Yeah.
it might be a human wizard.
I'm wondering if it's an advisor or a wizard. It feels like it's an advisor. Because, like, I could picture lapping. I mean, lapping's got, I guess he only has 16 flips for it. That's not very much.
But it flipped first turn both times.
He flips it. And,
Human wizard. It is a human wizard before it flips.
it is a human wizard. And he loses his wizardry, not his humanity, when he flips. He trades his wizard. He trades in his wand for insect. The beats begin. So we've already seen Alexander very few ways to interact with the insectoid.
Imagine if you were fighting against a wizard and then you like somehow turned him into an insect and somehow he was significantly more powerful as an insect instead of being a wizard. It's just kind of strange, isn't
It
it?
requires imagining a lot of really strange things. You're absolutely correct. Harry Potter never did this, right? Whenever I think of wizards, I usually just think of Harry Potter. So we are seeing Alexander stuck on mana. He drew a Forge Tender, so he did board in the Forge Tender. It's kind of interesting. I'm kind of surprised. Forge Tender doesn't seem that great against Jonathan's deck.
That doesn't seem very good at all.
But it is a wizard. It's just that it's tough because needing to use your white mana to cast your creature seems like a real tough way to do it when you only have 2 Tundras in your deck. No ways to get them back. And you have 4 Plows that are so crucial. You're playing against somebody who's got land destruction. Definitely seems like you got to save those Tundras for when you're going to plow something, but
Do you think Jonathan's going to play around Submerge?
oh, I think if he can, absolutely. I think if he can, there's no reason not to. He doesn't have very many green decks in his deck, or green cards in his deck. One thing I've noticed about these Rug players, they have a tendency to have been playing Rug a lot. Like people who play Rug in Legacy tournaments, there's a lot of repeat customers there. You know, there are a lot of people who that's one of the styles. Like they love not even just Rug, the Threshold sort of decks. And so he's probably got a lot of familiarity with that battle. That said, I think he drew Sylvan Library, which is going to call for a Tropical Island.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the Sylvan Library coming in here. If you bring in Sylvan Library against the aggressive decks, where do you not bring it in against?
Don't you just want it against everybody then?
Maybe a non-blue aggressive deck is where you don't want it. I don't know. We see Sylvan Library. Sylvan Library obviously one of those cards that doesn't actually do what it says it does. But
Oracle text is different.
Oracle text is significantly different.
Yes. So here's the thing: is when you can't put those cards in your hand when you draw them. Otherwise, you can cheat. And Sylvan Library, as printed, just allows you to cheat.
There's a lot of strange little quirks with it. like ways it interacts. Like it interacts so strangely with like Brainstorm, just because of the fact that you can put back any of the cards that you drew this turn. So Ether Vial coming down. Alexander may be color screwed, but at least he's got a vial. He did win the fight over the Submerge, which is interesting because it looks like Jonathan's actually pitched a Delver to the Force of Will.
Yeah, he did so because he wanted to counter that Vial. It turns off a lot of his deck.
Vial's got to be the most important card from
Alex,
this position, yeah. But now, Sylvan Library, what's really interesting about this is not only can he draw extra cards from it, but it's sort of like a top that doesn't cost any mana. So he always just gets to trigger his Delvers. He gets selection with his fetch lands. If he needs, he can pay a little bit extra life. He even gets to, like, if one of his Tarmogoyfs gets plowed, it's like it's a cantrip. Very, 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 very powerful card. They don't make too many green cards powerful in that way, but it sure would be nice if they made a few more.
And that's one of the reasons why Sylvan Library is so good, is the interaction between your opponent's Swords to Plowshares and your Tarmogoyfs.
Just, yeah, drawing extra cards. I mean, when you're playing green, you have Tarmogoyf.
Sometimes you get a card and a half out of it. And it's card selection, too.
Absolutely. So, Delver comes back down. Alexander allows it. He just wanted some time. He is already at 10 life, though. So he's definitely behind, especially since he doesn't have a vial. If he doesn't make a play right here, I got a feeling this is going to slip out of... Oh, no. Yeah, I got a feeling this is going to slip out of control real fast. The combination of Jonathan's mana denial, along with cheap spot removal, and just super, super efficient spells. I mean, he has so many spells that cost 0, 1, or 2. I mean, I guess basically all of them. He's got one Temporal Spring as his only spell in his entire deck that costs more than 2.
Snapcaster Mage, sort of. Right?
Well, in a pinch.
Oh yeah, I mean, you could end step in and kill people.
But the Wizard deck, on the other hand, 4 Patron Wizards, 4 Mirror Entities, doesn't have the mana denial element. And unfortunately, it looks like it's just never been able to get going. That Disruption, I mean, that Wasteland, that single Wasteland just knocked it out.
How many lands is the
17.
Wizard deck playing? 17?
17.
Yeah. I mean...
And with only 2 Tundras, he's real vulnerable to Wasteland. That's the thing, these Legacy decks, I mean, like 17 land with 8 3-drops. Like, that just doesn't seem... I don't know. Doesn't seem like enough. And in this case, it wasn't. Jonathan pulls it off, locking his opponent out of mana and providing the Insectoid Abomination beatdown.
So what do you think about the future of this format? I know we've just talked about this